Did we ask you this last week, Darian? In your time in Sasky, did you ever curl? You ever try curling?
Never. It's crazy. As popular as curling is, I've never tried it, and I'm sad about that too because I wish I did.
It's if you're an American or if you're from somewhere that you don't really curling isn't that prevalent, and you actually watch what was going on at the Bright, it's like this rink is packed, and these people in Canada are watching these people throw stones down the ice like crokinole. And trying to put it like it's when you take yourself away from it, it's a little bit different.
And you just realize how huge it is. I mean, you can turn on TSN. It could be any point during the day, and you'll see it on national TV. So whenever something makes national TV, and you can catch it at 2, 3 in the morning, it's a big deal.
Darian, as an outsider, who do you think does better in the bar after the game? Old retired hockey players or curlers? Who do you think who could better balance off the post game festivities? Because I'm going to say football players. I don't necessarily know you guys are entering that conversation. Curlers and hockey players.
Yeah, I don't think we're as tough as those guys, man. It's something about being on that ice rink and being athletic enough to maneuver and not fall, man. That's a special athletic talent. So I have to give it to those guys. Seriously, it's tough to do.
NFL free agency, or as Maz called it, legit tampering or whatever you call it. Have you been paying close attention today? Anything jumping off the page at you?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been keeping up with everything, and I guess the thing that sticks out to me the most is Sam Darnold going to the Seattle Seahawks, and not only that, only signing, and I say only like $33 million is not a lot of money, but for him to go to Seattle after the year he's had, what he did with Minnesota, and only get a 3-year deal, with an average of $33 million a year. It just shows that Minnesota didn't want to pay him, and I'm sure that there were some other teams out there that where he thought he could land possibly, and there just wasn't a real market for him when it comes to being paid at that elite level. So that's kind of shocking to me because I thought he did enough with this year to put himself up there with the upper echelon of quarterbacks. So it's definitely shocking to see him go to Seattle and not be able to get in that $45 to $50 million range.
I mentioned this to Maz right before break. Sam Darnold, he had a great year in Minnesota, no doubt about it. Controlled environment. Now he's going back out, Darian, as a quarterback. Like, wouldn't you think about some of that?
Of course. I mean, you have to look at the weather. I mean, and you go to Seattle where not only are you outdoors, but it rains, 3 to 5 days a week sometimes. So, just hoping for that one day on Sunday where you get good weather, the odds are against you in Seattle. So I really don't understand that, but that just also shows me that maybe the market for him wasn't as big as I thought it was. And maybe, that Minnesota offense and the system that he played in is just favorable to any quarterback because, I'm sure other teams felt that way, and that's why he wasn't granted with that big contract.
That's what I had said, that I think everything lined up for him last year to showcase his strengths, minimize his weaknesses. I don't know if you're going to get that in Seattle, and especially since one of their best receivers, DK Metcalf, well, he bolted for Pittsburgh. So now who's he going to, Tyler Lockett's still there, but who else is he going to be throwing to? There's a lot of unknown in Seattle where Minnesota, like Justin Jefferson's a special player. To have you more than anybody would know, hey, I need a few people I can throw this to for me to, look like the stud that I am.
Yeah, he's basically going from the best receiver, or arguably the best receiver in the NFL, to an unknown group of receivers. And, I don't know. I mean, but when you're a quarterback and you're thinking about money, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about situations, all of these things come into play. If you can't go back to the situation that put you in this place to be paid as one of the top quarterbacks, then you have to look for the second best option. And this tells me that there weren't really that many options out there for him, and he kind of settled on Seattle.
what? So now you look at the Metcalf going to Pittsburgh, and I think it's public knowledge now where he's a bit of a me guy. And hey, I'm sure you played with a lot of receivers that were me guys, get me the ball guys. I'm going to start complaining when I don't have the ball. But now there's two solid receivers in Pittsburgh. How do you think this shakes out? First off, with those two guys, with two 1A receivers, and who's going to throw him the ball?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, who's going to get these guys to rock? I mean, you're hearing these rumbles about Aaron Rodgers coming in, and honestly, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, this would probably be the better situation for me with two, all-pro caliber receivers, to be able to throw to. But, I guess with a coach like Mike Tomlin, you look at his demeanor, the respect that he gets from all of the players across the league. If there's any coach that can deal with these two type personalities and be able to keep them under control, it's Mike Tomlin. So I'm not too worried about these guys harming the team with their antics and the frustration and things that they do with fighting and cheap shots. I'm not really worried about that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm more so worried about, like you said, who's going to throw these guys the ball, because Aaron Rodgers is really the only pure thrower out there. I mean, you could revisit, another year with Russell Wilson. I think he can definitely do a good job, and he led them to the playoffs, so he's definitely capable of it. But, Aaron Rodgers is the guy who I would look at, and if I want to keep these guys happy, then he's the type of quarterback that you need to bring in-house.
It's funny, on the screen, they're the San Francisco 49ers. The going rate for a quarterback from a team that likes you is about $50 million a year. But the Brock Purdy extension of $50 million per year hasn't come up, and maybe it won't. There is some dragging of the feet. I don't know what their other options are. But after what Brock Purdy has showed, considering there was no expectations for him, I would say he's performed well above whatever they thought his ceiling was going to be. Is any quarterback worth $50 million anymore in the NFL? That's the number, but is there anybody really worth $50 million?
I think there's only a handful of guys that are worth $50 million, but as the TV deals increase and as guys, year after year, you see the salary increase, guys are just going to get paid, and that's what market value is at the moment. So I can't say that they don't deserve it, but, to say that Brock Purdy deserves what Patrick Mahomes makes, or that Trevor Lawrence deserves what Josh Allen makes, I think that'd be crazy to even look at it from that perspective. So, but what I'm hearing is that the 49ers have offered Brock Purdy. They've offered him $45 million a year, which I think is a pretty solid number, given that, he's led the team to the playoffs consecutive years. He's a solid guy. He's young. And, I mean, you still – you're not paying him the 55 to 57 million. So there's an extra 10 million there that you can, look to sign other guys with. So I think the 45 million that they've offered him is fair. And I think it's something that he'll consider, highly in signing, because, you don't want to, overvalue yourself and then, the team turns down that contract altogether. So sometimes it's best to just take what they offer. You live in California, the taxes are going to eat you up anyway. So there's really no big difference between, and I say that, like there's no big difference in millions of dollars, but to guys who make money on this scale, there's really no big difference at 45 and 47 when you're talking about, the state of California.
How this year, if you're looking at it with the, let's call it, suspect quarterback class, they say it's a huge running back class. Is this the year where there's going to be a lot of teams be like, hey, we got to find someone that's played. We got to find someone that's paid into the union for a few years here, because there isn't a quarterback coming out of this draft class. Like, how do you see the draft class when it comes to QBs?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Even though I like Shador and Ward. I think that they're not the elite type guys that should be drafted in the top 5. They're not your franchise changing, all of a sudden you're now a winning team type of quarterback. I don't think so. I think both guys could, use a year to sit behind a vet, learn the NFL, learn the ins and outs, learn a system, and then be implemented, kind of like Michael Penix was in Atlanta, midway to later on in the season, kind of see what they can do. So I don't think this is a really strong class. I think, what Saquon showed you last year, Saquon Barkley, is that running backs are valuable, and that if you have a game-changing type running back, he can definitely change your franchise. So with this draft class being so strong at the running back position with, Gentry coming out of Boise State, and you have Judkins at Ohio State, and a number of good running backs that are just flying under the radar. I think this is a good year for GMs and teams to, rethink, how they value the running back and say, you know what, maybe if I had a guy I can give the ball, 25, 30 times, control the clock, keep our defense off of the field, we can help our team win games.
Now, speaking of running back, you just mentioned him, and he was asked on the weekend, hey, where would you like to end up? Talking about Ashton Gentry, that was from Boise. And Texas kid, practiced and played at the Star at their facility and all of that. And keep in mind, the Cowboys, not necessarily shrewd over the past 3 decades when it comes to drafting, but how good would Ashton Gentry look as a Dallas Cowboy? All of a sudden, you have something credible in the backfield again, not since Zeke, that you would have somebody that you can turn around and hand the ball to.
Well, first and foremost, you have to hope that he's there. I think Dallas picks in the early teens, if I'm not mistaken. So you have to hope he's there. It depends on how the teams before him value a running back. And, like we said, this quarterback class is kind of, I wouldn't say mediocre, but just above average. So, teams may jump at a running back early on in the draft. You just never know. But if he was able to make it to Dallas, I think that's all that Dak Prescott has been missing. I mean, when you look at Dak and the success he has when he, can throw the ball less, have a guy rush for, over 20 carries or rush for over 100 yards, I think he's winning at like an 80% clip. So we know that, whenever you can put a running back in Dallas and take the pressure off of Dak, you're almost guaranteed a playoff spot. So it would be good for Dallas if that happens. We just have to wait and see if he's there and if he lasts long enough to make it to Dallas.
All right. This is how your career dies. Ashton Gentry, you end up between Fort Worth and Dallas, and then that's it.
Well, I hate to say it, but you look at Zeke, I think he had 5 or 6 good years, and then he just fell off a cliff. So, if history repeats itself again, Dallas may not be a good place to go for running backs because you're going to get a lot of wear and tear on your body, and who knows what may happen after those first 5 or 6 years.
No.
Know who I've always liked that I thought would be a really good Dallas Cowboy? Najee Harris, who plays for the Steelers. Because he runs hard and he's a big man.
Yeah, he does.
Like he is,
and he's young too.
To me, he's like a Derrick Henry light, but just that same kind of that man. He'd look good as a Cowboy. See, didn't you love when Darian was talking about the scenarios of the Cowboys and having a good running back? Like he lit up, like the smile, like he lit up. Come on, Jerry.
Yeah.
Good, you got a huge fan here.
Do something.
Do
something.
Do a solid. Do something.
Hire him. How about hire him?
That would be good too. I like to think my football IQ is up there with some of the best. So,
oh yeah, we concur. Okay, so free agency when you were playing in the CFL, was there one free agency signing that was made that made you jump up, maybe cheer, fists in the air, Ellard Court style?
Oh man, honestly it was. And this is going to be shocking, but when in 2015, I'm sorry, we signed Jamel Richardson. And I was thinking that this was like the sleeper / steal of the decade by signing him, because he still had some juice in the tank, and just reliving all the memories of him just killing us over the years. to have and I never really had that big physical presence. DB just put fear in DBs from a physical standpoint. So when we signed Jamel Richardson in 2016, I'm sorry, I keep saying 2016. In 2015, I was just excited about that. So, a lot of people don't know that, but I was very, very excited when we signed Jamel.
How did that, honestly, because I don't remember, because it's a blur. 2013, I remember pretty much everything after that. It's funny, I didn't even know, like we were chatting in the summer, I don't even remember you playing in Montreal, just because when you have tunnel vision and you only see certain things. Obviously it kind of didn't work out the way that you had thought. How did that season kind of play out for him?
No, it was sad because once I got hurt, and then, Kevin Glenn, he came in and he played well, but then he got hurt as well. So we really didn't have anyone to get him the ball, and he was released before week 9. I think that was the time when, the veteran contracts are guaranteed. Yeah. He was released right before that.
And that's why I don't remember, like, when you're like, oh, that's right. But obviously, and then you remember that kind of stuff. We don't. Like, we see some of this stuff in the off season, but yeah, he had so many, like, as an Alouette, just so dangerous. And still that overtime game to start the season, the comeback, still one of the best regular season games ever. And that wasn't a catch. He was out of bounds. Sorry, Montreal, but you were out of bounds. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Call the command center. Are you a little worried the CFL doesn't have a commissioner yet? Like, it is getting close to crunch time here, don't you think?
I'm not really worried. I think they're doing their due diligence to find the right guy. I'm not here to downplay that role, but it's not really that significant of a position. I think whoever falls into it, the league is in a good state, right? And, they'll be in good hands. So I'm not overly worried about it. I think that they're just doing their due diligence to find the right guy.
There's a guy in Regina who's throwing his hat in the ring
guy.
Soon. I guess he's not a football guy. He never played in the league. He's a finance guy. Had some talking. Curtis is pointing at me. I said he's a business and finance guy. Do I look like a business and finance guy? Man, I like. So it's and this guy has a plan on kind of building things based on stadiums that don't need, 20, 30,000. Like, if you get that, perfect. That's awesome. If you only can have 10, 12,000, where's the other revenue sources? And the one thing that jumped out to me was Ticketmaster. As soon as you get rid of Ticketmaster, every team's got an extra $1 million in their pocket. You come up with your own. There's quite a few things. It's going to be interesting when if he wants to release things and all that. And then, he's, like I said, business, finance, goes at it with a different lens. Very passionate, obviously, as well. Well, Darian, let's see. Look at this.
Look at this. A 1-year deal, Jerry. You're really going out on a limb.
And that's my Tar Heel. That's a fellow Tar Heel right there, too. So congrats to him, man. I think that could be a good signing. That's a really good signing. Matter of fact, Denver doesn't get a lot of airtime. You don't get to see him play a lot. But Devontae's a really good back. So I'm happy about that.
1-year deal.
I know.
Yeah. Jerry doesn't like to. I guarantee since he, made that mistake of signing Zeke to a long-term deal, he's very, very cautious about giving out money to running backs, man. Unless you're a Saquon Barkley type, Jerry's not gonna dish out a long-term deal anymore.
Jerry.
Oh, and by the way, hey Jerry, by the way, Saquon's going to be in the division for a while, so your nightmare, it's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah.
Man, wouldn't it be nice to sit down with Jerry and just talk about what are some of the bad purchases you've made in your life? Like, Jerry probably owns
he would say nothing.
Car thing.
He would say nothing. He would say, I've never made a bad decision.
That stadium is sweet, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good week, Darian. Thanks so much. Always fun.
Thanks, guys.
Right on. Double Talk with our man Darian Durant.